Happy 4th of July, everybody. We live in the greatest nation on earth. It's great to be alive. The 4th of July is also a time to start getting serious about scouting. I think a lot of people drop the ball here, and right now is the most important time to get onto big bucks. That might sound like a big statement. People are like, oh, no, you know, right around rut, you know, get your cameras out right before season. But if you look at my walls, a lot, and I mean a lot, of my biggest bucks have come from finding them in late summer, between July and the end of August. And July 4th pretty much indicates the time when I get old creak in my neck, and you know you need to start looking. And the more I scout in that late summer, the more lucky I am in the fall. Hunting has a lot to do with luck. Everybody says it, right? I can tell you this, the more I scout in summer, in that late summer, the luckier I am in fall. The main tools you're going to use for late summer scouting is binoculars, spotting scopes, spotlights, trail cameras, observation stands. Yeah, that's a nice buck.
Your body looks big.
There, he just trotted into the cornfield.
That might be one of the ones I see near the news.
So what's interesting about that is, where did I tell you that buck would make a scrape?
Oh yeah, that was funny. He said, till this down far enough so they'll start make a scrape right there.
And then that's where he made the scrape.
What is that? That was Wednesday.
Right.
Today is Sunday.
The White 11. Now that's a good story for observations. Now that one was when I was young and aggressive, which kills bucks. Aggressive kills bucks. Probably more so than skill. But I had heard about a buck living in a remote public area. A friend of mine had gotten a couple pics of. And he wasn't going to go after it because of the effort involved to get back there. I literally had to cross a river that was, you know, so deep. So his intel, his summer pictures, photographs, told me an area. Didn't tell me exactly where the buck lived, his nighttime pictures and stuff, right? But I knew he was in that area. And I knew it was a remote area people weren't getting to. So I waded through this river, got back there, went back glassing, walking these ridges, glassing the bottoms. I came upon this spot in the late evening. I was walking this ridge edge and I saw something down in the bottom glassing. And it turned out to be a very large buck. And I got some film of it, but back in those days we were using VHS camcorders, you know, the size of a truck that you hold on your shoulder, with giant VHS tapes. And got a little film of this buck in some heavy grass. But then I started observing it. Now this was early August observation, and I kept observing it through August. So I got a pattern going. It was bedding, summer bedding on a oxbow and coming out and actually working a summertime scrape, like a bed scrape. And I got that buck on opening day based on what I saw in August with the glasses. The biggest buck I ever shot, large 15 pointer. I found that buck and I would not have been hunting in the area if it weren't for seeing him in July on a sleepless night when I just got up and went shining because I couldn't sleep. I found that buck, came back the next day, followed his tracks back. It was a real open area. Found where he was coming from, a wood lot. Started observing him by the wood lot. And then some hunters moved in that also observed him and spooked him out of there. Then I had to relocate him. Didn't kill him that year. Found his shed antler in a bed. Ended up killing him in that bed in November, gun hunting, by crawling up to him in the bed and shooting him with a shotgun. The funny part is I crawled up to a range and he just laid there. I could have shot him with a bow. But regardless, 2 years prior, seeing that buck in that field in July is what put me there. That's the original thing that put me there to kill that buck. Without that, that buck wouldn't be. These big bucks are really in niche areas. And the shining, the glassing and stuff puts you in those areas. You cover a lot of ground quickly with binoculars and with a spotting scope. And you can observe huge areas with a pair of binoculars. A camera can only cover a very small area. Finding those niche areas is important because you can cover a lot of ground that looks good to the average guy and not find a buck that you want to go after. A lot of times these mature bucks have found the little sections that nobody looks at, and nobody looks at them for a reason. And you might have those same reasons. And observing these bucks in those areas will twist your mind into looking at the areas where these bucks belong, rather than the areas that magazines, people, and influences tell you to be. I was onto a really big buck, so I didn't want to shoot this buck, but he was coming out on a regular basis. So I put Carol's cousin on this buck, and he missed it. Missed a 10-yard shot at it. It changed how it was coming out of the bedding area, coming out a little different. And a week into the season, I put my friend out there, Mike Adkins, and he missed it. Unbelievable, right? Then the buck disappeared for a while. And the buck I was after completely ghosted, disappeared, could not find it. So after about a month into the season, I kind of figured out how this buck was coming out of the same area where the other two missed it, set up, and got the buck coming out the back side, and ended up shooting him. And I wouldn't even have known that deer existed, nor would I have hunted right on top of the road if it were not for watching that deer live there. He really had like a niche area that I found through glassing. Back in the very early 2000s, we had a non-typical out here that was 9.5 years old, and that buck, a lot of the neighbors knew about him, a lot of the people around here knew about him, but he was kind of a ghost. Nobody ever got opportunities at him. I found that buck by shining. I found him, I saw him in some fields. I got a little bit of video of him that's not very good. I kind of put together a plan right before season by where I was seeing him. I was seeing him in a field where you wouldn't expect to. And I knew right behind there was a little marsh, and the time frame that I saw him just after dark, told me he had to be coming from somewhere close. And the only cover that was secure enough in my eyes for a deer of that age to move that distance in daylight was a small little marsh right behind there. So early in the season, right around opening weekend, I slid into there and made a setup. And I got that buck to within 8 yards. He came straight to me, heading towards that field, got behind the tree, and I think he got a little bit of my scent. The wind was right, but it was calm, and I think he got a little bit of pooling. He didn't run, he just turned around and walked away, but I had a big willow tree in my way and I couldn't shoot. And that buck was killed that fall by a neighbor and would have scored 217, but ended up scoring like 196 or 197 because he blew a tine off shooting it. The deer had broken a leg, probably from a car accident, we're thinking, but had a broken leg and would not have made it through the winter. So it's good he took the buck. But he just stumbled across it walking through cattails. It jumped up and he was in a hurry to get to the tree stand, buzzing through, and it jumped up in front of him with a broken leg. And he shot it with a gun. But again, I wouldn't even have had an opportunity at that buck if it weren't for shining. A lot of times, shining, glassing, observing will put you in an area with lots of bucks. And when this giant non-typical showed up, and I was pretty sure I was going to kill that giant non-typical, I moved into the area and had another just giant buck come in and walk right underneath me in the same area. And what put me in that area was looking for that giant buck. But it seems to me that a small area of these public lands holds all the big bucks. For all you guys that watch the marsh bedding DVD, there's a buck in there that I shoot. It's on bow cam, it's horrible footage. That buck, even though it really wasn't a shining type deal, it had an influence from shining. Because glassing that area, shining all the fields, that area there had the biggest concentration of good bucks and put me in that area. I wanted to hunt that area because I knew there was more big bucks in that area. Simply from shining and from glassing and from observing, I knew I needed to concentrate that huge marsh down to that area. So even though the buck isn't a direct result of shining, glassing, observing, the buck was shot because I seen him and a bunch of other bucks in a field and knew there was a grouping of large bucks in that area, upping my odds. Some of these bucks will disappear. Some of them, and you're gonna hear people say, I wouldn't do that because that buck won't be around this fall. But some of them will disappear, but some of them won't. So I've seen studies, radio color studies and other studies, and they match what I've seen. About 1 out of every 3 deer relocate from summer to fall patterns into a whole new area. The rest of them kind of don't. So 2 out of 3 in my favor sounds pretty good. Now they might seem to disappear too. Sometimes they just disappear off the map. It's mature bucks in summer are a whole different animal. They're out in daylight, they're moving around. That's why they're so observable. They're feeding in open fields. When fall comes, they don't even like to go in open fields at night. They're really sly, they're sneaky. They don't get to be 6 or 7 on public land by not learning a few life lessons. And I don't know if it's as much the life lessons as it is the timing. As fall comes, they get a little less moving around in daylight, a little less moving around in the fields. They core into their areas, but that doesn't mean they're gone. And now you've got an area to concentrate on. And if the sign's there, the big rubs are there, the tracks are there, he's there somewhere. You just got to find them. I was looking at maps of new properties I hadn't walked, hadn't scouted, hadn't looked at yet. And I saw this one property I wanted to go to. Drove there, drove around in the evenings. And late in the evening, probably 10 or 15 minutes left of enough light to glass, I saw this really nice framed buck. But I shot that buck on opening day after watching him in the same spot come out day after day just before the season. That observations with the binoculars, going out and just driving to a property and glassing, put me on that buck. Some of those observations, when I couldn't quite see the buck from the road, I did get in a tree stand back in the woods and pinned down exactly where he was coming out and exactly how he was coming out. And then on opening day I moved in. The key to that is keeping that tree stand back far enough that that deer is not going to smell you, not going to see you, isn't going to walk there and get spooky from you being there, but getting you close enough that you can see what's going on. The closer to the season, the better. I mean, obviously, seeing the buck the day before the season opens and then going out and hunting them opening day, your odds are higher, right? But any given second of that summertime from July 4th to season, any given second, you can find the buck of your dreams and get him that fall based on that 10 seconds of observation. That's what makes this so great, this summer scouting. How many of you remember seeing this hunt on our hill country videos? In this hunt, James went after a 10-pointer that we kept seeing in the field. My buddy Bob Dobson observed him, glassed him, was watching him keep going to this one area. He told me and James what area the buck was coming from and where it was going, showed us some video footage, we watched the buck, then we went out to hunt it.
First buck with a bow.
It's got gas.
He's farting. Make it quick, because I'm on the bad end of this deal.
Who squeezed the buck? James picked his own tree. The buck came off the hill. James shot it. Why was James there? Because of a summer observation of the buck. James got that buck because that buck was seen in summer feeding in a field with binoculars. The Rome legend. The Rome legend, everybody knew about that buck because it was seen all the time during the summer. It wasn't seen so much during the fall, but it left rubs and stuff everywhere. But the observations in summer, and putting them together, I seen the buck on private land. Everybody was seeing it on private land. They're all hunting across the border from their private land. My observations, my glassing, my shining, went on into the season as I just sat back and observed as long as the buck kept showing up where I couldn't hunt him until the observations put him on my side of the street. And then my skills of scouting took over. I was able to hunt him down. It took 2 years to kill this buck. But I killed him because of watching him during the summer.
What do you think, Dave?
Holy crap. Jesus.
I told you he's a good one.
Getting onto the bear bait buck might have been a lot of luck because it just happened to come into my bear bait, right? But what put me on that buck and what ultimately got that buck within 15 yards of me and almost killed was the fact that I got a picture of it, or many pictures, June through August, and had all these pictures lined up and knew this thing's habit, knew how it was coming in, knew where it was coming from by the time season rolled around. Now, I didn't kill that buck, but I came that close. One year we had a like 190 class buck that had a double main beam on one side. Just a really nice buck that I was watching daily. I had him coming out on a regular routine. And I felt real confident about killing this buck. And it got right up to season. And a few days before season, my neighbor hit it with a car and killed it. But I wonder if I would have got that buck based on the intel that I had. 400-pound slob buck was a buck that I was driving around glassing public areas, and I went by this parking lot and was kind of thinking about turning around, but I looked in and I saw this buck back in next to the parking lot and observed him. Started watching him, started seeing him coming out with another buck. Ultimately, I ended up killing that buck based on my observations from the truck with a pair of binoculars. Even bucks like the Big 8, that buck, I mean, a lot of the reason I was onto him the way I was, even though a lot of it came from the fall, a lot of it came from the summer. A lot of it came from keeping tabs on him, watching him, seeing where he was hanging, seeing where he was going. And it just kept leading me to certain areas where ultimately he was killed. But I was out looking for deer, looking for targets, looking for victims. Driving down these back end roads. This was a little dead end road. I went down there and glassed this one little section that I usually kind of just bypass with some tree lines and stuff. And he came out of this little tiny patch of trees into a field and worked an edge, right at the edge of darkness. I mean, really, I could just kind of make out that he had a big frame. I didn't know how big he was, but I was like, it's got to be a shooter. And he was. Opening day, he got shot, based on me seeing him from the truck with a pair of binoculars. So obviously I've killed a few bucks by finding them first, but there's a lot of them I didn't. There's a lot of huge bucks that I came across, I watched, I went after, and I didn't kill. I mean, some real good stuff. I mean, even some world-class deer. I mean, look at this buck. What do you think that thing scores? I mean, really. As a typical, this thing is a monster. One of the guys I had out hunting with me actually had this buck probably at a few hundred yards from him where you could see it through some openings on the edge of the cattails. But other than that, I never heard of anybody shooting this buck, finding a shed, or anything. It just disappeared off the map. So basically, you can go out and party every weekend. You can go out and you can musky fish this fall. You can go out and just enjoy the views or kiss the old lady's ass so that she lets you hunt. Or you can dive in deep into the scouting. But it doesn't have to be like that. I know we all have lives, we all have things we have to do. You can balance it. You got an hour or two, just head out. Because really it boils down to any given second you can find that buck of your dreams. A lot of the deer that I've killed as giants came from just some whim where I took a ride. There's nothing going on. I was bored. The old lady went to sleep early. Something happened, got out of work early, or even on my way to work. A lot of times, here in Wisconsin, shining's legal. I'll shine on my way to work, and I'll pick up a big buck. So it can be any given second. It just takes a slight amount of effort. And maybe you find one, maybe you don't, with minimal effort. But the more you look, the better you do. Remember, hunting's about luck. And the more work you put into it, the luckier you are. Good luck this fall. May all of the prepared hunters kill a giant buck. Happy 4th of July.
Some people say a buck is made out of meat, antlers and fur and 4 fast feet, a brain that's sharp, a harem of does, and you're sure not going to beat that incredible nose. You hunt for 14 days, and what do you get? 2 weeks older and no buck yet. I was born one day. It was blowing snow. I crawled out of my crib and grabbed my bow. You hunt for 14 days, and what do you get? 2 weeks older, no buck yet. I went hunting in the pouring rain. My daddy said, "Boy, are you insane? You hunt for 14 days, and what do you get? 2 weeks older and no buck yet." You hunt for 14 days, and what do you get? 2 weeks older and no buck yet.
Way out where the cattails sway, in the muck where most won't stay, there's a shadow moving through the reeds. That ain't luck, that's the hunting beast. Got swamp mud up to his knees, tracks big bucks like gets a breeze. Got old raccoons eating from his hands. He's part wild, a part myth, oh man. He walks on water in the cattail fog, whispers to critters like he's talking to God. From sunrise glassing to last light stalks, he's the ghost in the woods that the big bucks talk. You might hear tales from the Midwest East, but none hunt hard like the hunting beast. A public land preacher with a swamp-stained creed. He don't need luck, just a wind and a lead. With a bow in hand and fire in his eye, he'll track that buck till the day he dies. He's seen things deep in the brush and fog, where boots get swallowed by the bog. And if you doubt what legends mean, he's the reason deer don't sleep in them cedars green. He walks on water in the cattail fog, whispers to critters like he's talking to God. From sunrise glassing to last light stalks, he's the ghost in the woods that the big bucks talk. You might hear tales from the Midwest East, but none hunt hard like the hunting beast. He don't need no tree stand high, he'll crawl through briars low and sly. He reads the wind, he knows the signs, and he'll be dragging horns come closing time. He walks on water in the cattail fog, swamp-born bloodhound, a whitetail dog. From backwoods bucks to legends increased, there's no one hunts like the hunting beast. Yeah, the woods remember where he stepped, a tracker born and swamp bred kept. Not just a name, he's earned that beast, a quiet force in the whitetail feast.
All right, I thought I'd give you a quick rundown on my equipment. I changed bows again this year. I decided to go with Prime's new carbon bow, the Form. I've got a 31-inch arrow. I got an extreme draw length. So I'm using day 6 arrows with 150 grain broadheads. And the bow's turned up to 60 pounds. My shoulder's doing better. And I gotta get used to shooting this thing a little bit. But it's shooting really nice, really fast. This bow is significantly lighter than last year's model. They got just the right combination of carbon and aluminum. And this year too, for the first time, they got a center grip, a center shot. You know, before it was offset a little bit. So that's gonna help out dramatically with the tuning. But I'm really liking it so far. I'm using the Hamsky arrow rest, and that's one of the best ones for this bow, for this particular one. I'm not sure what the brand of this sight is, but Steve Pagel had these in his shop from when he used to have an archery shop, and he was helping me set this up. And this particular one, I could see the sight real well. And with my eyesight, that's an issue. And I would really rather have more than one single pin like that. But it is adjustable, and I can see it real well. And the majority of my shots, you know, are 25 yards or less. So only place I might have an inkling to take a shot a little further to that is maybe out west or Kansas or something like that, where I have a little bit more open terrain. Most of my hunting is in thick, dense stuff, and my shots are right on top of the animals. So I'm gonna sight it in for the longer ranges and mark it, but I'm really concentrating on 25 and less, so I can do that with one pin. And for the quiver, I went with the Headlock G5. It's also made by the Prime Boys. Real small, lightweight quiver, which, you know what? I like this better than the fancy ones, and the fancy ones are so expensive. This thing, I think it was like, if I remember correctly, like 40 bucks. I bought it at Fleet Farm. Really inexpensive, but works really well. And it's just got like a little rubber stop that goes on your bow. And you just put this thing onto the rubber stop and put whatever position you want it at, and just close it. And it's locked on there. So then I can unlock it, hang it in a tree or whatever I need to do, whether I want the quiver on or off. I usually shoot with it on, unless I'm in tight quarters. If I'm in tight brush, I like to take the arrows off so I don't have it all sticking out of the side of my bow. I'm excited to get rolling, and I'll let you guys know how I'm doing. Oh, I'll show you the broadheads quick. I got some day 6 broadheads. They're 150 grain. We're gonna give these a shot. See how they shoot out of this bow. I'll get this fancy box open. Probably cost me more for the box than the broadheads. But this is what they look like right here. Nice, thick and heavy, and they got bleeder blades too. They got a nice cut-on contact tip. I like that, instead of those chiseled tips. And the heavier arrows, heavier broadheads, the heavier weight on the bow. Hopefully I get some good penetration, some good shots. And I'm looking forward to this fall and trying the new equipment.